Eternity by Alfred Lindelof. Chapter 3. That next morning. I awoke to the aroma of Gary cooking pancakes. My best guess was that I fell asleep before actually talking to him, but I couldn't even remember laying down. At this point, the whole night felt like a bad dream. Then the clock chimed in. Keet, keet, keet! Damn, I hate waking up before the alarm. The sudden sharp screeches were so invasive that they pierced my semi-conscious state and pulled me completely from the darkness of my dream. Similar to God's brilliant light, except my clock wasn't as gentle. With a mind of its own, my hand reached over to stop the sound. Then I opened my eyes. A stretch would begin a lifelong morning ritual attempt at waking up, one which always accompanied a yawn and 2 solid minutes of staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling. I'd had them since I was a kid. Then an eventual eye rub helped to discover any crust, which I always flicked away to the floor. After dragging each leg out from under the warm blankets, I'd yawn again, sit up at the edge of my bed, and stare at the fake stars a little longer. I did this every day. Call me a creature of habit. Maybe it was just a bad dream, I thought while checking my abdomen. What else could it have been? Truly no psychosis of an asylum patient could reinvent the pain that I experienced that night. It was too sharp. It was too vivid. If my mind fabricated the reality of death within a single night's dream, then I must have the imagination of a god. A thought which made me chuckle until a blinking blue LED caught my right eye's attention. Slow as a sloth, my head turned to the nightstand and stared at it for who knows how long. I couldn't help myself, you see. I forgot that I didn't have my phone with me that night. And I forgot that I had a phone. Anxiety began to destroy a morning message that I enjoyed for almost 3 years. My eyelids were still drooping. At first, I couldn't even read the words that were on the screen, but honestly, I didn't need to. I knew what it said. One new message, Eve. Hesitation took control of my body as the words shifted into focus. Maybe it was the pain of death. Maybe it was the wonder of being alive. Either way, I looked at her name like I hadn't seen it in forever. I couldn't imagine opening the text. I wanted to more than anything, but I just couldn't. A good morning message from Eve was my favorite part of every day, but on this particular occasion, all of my pores opened wide. Probably because I already knew what she was going to say. I knew that she was going to say, "Good morning," like she always did. And then she would ask about my night, like she always did. How can I possibly tell her about my night last night? I reached over to grab my phone, when I'm not even sure what happened myself. Sour thoughts began to flood my mind. A belief structure similar to, this message was meant for a dead man. These intrusions rushed their way past any mental dams I was managing to build and crashed into my cranium with alternating waves of pain and death. I started drowning in echoes of the same horrors I'd experienced the night before. Flashes of the mugging flowed through my brain like frames from an 8mm. I was drunk, yeah, but I still remember everything. The mugger in the shadows, the alleyway at night, the piercing pain of being barbed, the gleaming crimson knife. Each individual memory synchronized itself with a symphonic sting of impalement. My stomach wrenched twice, then my heart. But the thoughts and pains all stopped suddenly when a wonderful new aroma filled my nostrils. It overpowered the previous pancakes and snapped my mind away from death. A not-so-subtle pull on my brain bringing it back into my bedroom and focusing my fractured reality on food. Only one odor could command such a distracting power. Bacon. I sat for a minute and savored every salty second. In the meantime, my phone found its way back to the nightstand with an "I'll check this later." I couldn't take it anymore. The bacon beckoned. It grabbed my nose hard and yanked me to the door. I wasn't hungry, but I figured I should eat. Besides, it was bacon. I was powerless. My hand reached the door handle before I realized I was naked. This was followed by a loud whoops and a sharp left turn to my dresser. I fumbled through the clothes in my drawer and came across an old gray pair of sweatpants and a black t-shirt with a logo that I no longer remember. After a second of tripping over myself, I walked out of my bedroom with a little dignity. The first thing I noticed, the very first thing out of place, was the lack of bloody, clothing-filled garbage bags in front of the bathroom door. "Gary?" I called out in a small panic. They needed to be burned. "Hey, you're alive!" His voice rang after a sudden crash in the kitchen. I must have startled him. I was kind of too scared to check. What, happened to my clothes? I tried not to sound too upset as I turned the corner into the kitchen. You know, the bags from last night? I saw the bacon in the pan and counted 10 slices. Definitely a sharing size. Or maybe not. You never really know with people and their bacon. Oh, well, it's garbage day today, you know? So I threw it all out for you? Damn. He forked the bacon into some paper towels, then added some sausage into the grease. I figured you'd want it all gone or whatever with the morning trash. He wasn't right, but he wasn't wrong. Oh, okay. Cool, yeah, thanks. Forced sincerity obvious in my voice. But after looking at my chair at the table, I simply stopped caring about the clothes. For one moment, I forgot about them entirely. I became too distracted by the blanket of beautiful sunlight illuminating my spot. A golden glow of reminiscent rays, bringing me back to a time before I could remember. So I sat in the sun, forgot about the darkness, and waited for breakfast. A breakfast that did come and also went very quickly. I didn't even notice how silent Gary was while we were eating. It wasn't weird to me either. Not really. Not after a night like I had. A night like that makes everything weird in the world seem normal. A night like that makes nightmares seem normal. Nothing would ever scare me again. Or so I thought. Gary grabbed my plates and brought everything back to the kitchen sink. He was being nicer than normal, more helpful. Is everything okay, man? I asked, not sure what answer to expect. Yeah, why? He responded after placing the utensils into the dishwasher. I mean, you did the cooking, I started to suggest. So I can do the dishes? It was my self-assigned chore, after all. Besides, on a scale of 1 to weird, his night was at least a 9.3. Who knows what horrors went through his head before heading to bed. Nah, man. It's okay. He didn't look up when he responded. Actually, he didn't look at me at all while I was out there. Besides, I know you have to, pack or whatever, the trip. Holy shit. I forgot. How could I forget? It seems impossible to forget something so important, but I guess dying and being brought back to life must have reset my mind along with my health. My trip with Eve. The trip. The most important trip of our relationship. Dude, can you excuse me? My face flushed as the words left my mouth. I have to finish packing. Yet another time I didn't wait for an answer before leaving him alone. Gary must have hated me. I burst back into my bedroom with a superfluous dash to my nightstand. The small dresser handle slipped from my fingers as I grabbed at it the first time. I was worried. I had to see it. I knew it was there. It had to be there. I had to see it. I needed to see it. Behind the pens and pencils, underneath the wall of crumpled papers and other items purposely positioned to create a barrier, sat a small box. A box in which sat a ring. My shaky hands clutched this box until they calmed down. Happy as hell it was still there. This ring inside, though not very large, symbolized my never-ending love for Evelyn. My half-written proposal was there too, tucked beneath the golden diamond. I wanted to wing the whole thing, but I needed a little structure on paper just in case I fumbled. You have to understand, it's been a very long time since I wrote the words you're about to read, but I still remember them and they still ring true today, even as I recall this story. My Evelyn, my evening star, my everything. If you take my hand today, I promise to love you until the end of time. I promise no matter what, I will only ever think of you, and everything I do will be for us and for our future together. Honestly, it was the best I could do. Never really was an architect with words. They were, however, my words, and I meant every one of them. A strong gurgle in my stomach, followed by a pain that can only be described as bad gas, made me put the ring right back where it was. I saw it. It's definitely there. No need to hold on to it any further. The dresser drawer closed as, once again, the blinking blue LED caught my attention. This time I picked up my phone with intent to see the message. I was finally ready to read it. In a stroke of luck, all the courage required to unlock my phone nullified the discomfort I was feeling in my stomach. Every digit of my password took an inconceivable amount of willpower just to press. Eventually, though, it was unlocked, and I was able to stare at her name once again. Click. That means good morning. Did you dream about me? My dreams? I was thrown off. Any other day, my response would have been some sappy, cute something or other. But on this day, well, I hadn't actually thought about my dreams. In fact, now that it was on my mind, I couldn't remember having any dreams at all. My expectations beckoned horrible nightmares as soon as I closed my eyes, yet instead I fell into a void, a familiar blackness where I couldn't hear or see anything. I ended up spending my night not reliving my pain like I'd imagined, rather floating in a sea of endless nothing instead, a cold, lifeless ocean barren of light or sound. The memory alone made me shiver. It felt like death. May as well have been. I couldn't think of a response to Evelyn's message, so when the discomfort became noticeable again, I rushed my packing with an, I think I have to take a shit. I did not have to take a shit. Stuffing your pre-folded clothes into a suitcase moves about 40 times faster when your bowels beg for the bathroom. I unzipped my pants and zipped shut my suitcase in absolute synchronicity. I dashed to the door, a flip of the lid. I sat on the toilet but could not shit. I hate to admit this, but I stayed on the toilet for so long that Gary took the time to get ready for work and leave. Thank heavens the bathroom was squeaky clean. If I had to sit in there where I washed away my death, if I had to sit in my death for too long, way too long, I might have gone crazy. 2 more hours I sat there, breathing in the gassy air, pants pulled off and body bare, imagining my Evelyn. Nothing came out. I gave up. Plus, I was getting a little dizzy and I needed to lay down. Gary wasn't home anymore either, so who needs pants? I started to walk my bare bottom back to the bed, but as soon as I stood up, an acute nausea got the better of me. I fell head first back into the pisser and puked a torrent so powerful that the water splashed back at my face. Why didn't I flush? I thought as my gut retched up every bit of bile and splattered the porcelain insides with tiny chunks of chocolate-looking cheesecake. Groaning and puking was all I could do. After heaving up enough mucus to fill a balloon, my stomach's slimy rugae popped up through my esophagus. An early childhood fear of quite literally puking my guts out manifested in my brain. It made me swallow. Hard. But trying to swallow it back down seemed impossible. I could still feel my intestines folding up into my chest with every retch, so I swallowed harder. But no matter how hard I swallowed, my stomach would come back up when I heaved. So I'd swallow it back down. Then I'd heave it up and swallow it down. Then heave it up and swallow. And heave and swallow. And heave. Swallow. Heave. Swallow. Heave. My face turned red from the force of the vomit. Blood vessels burst in my eyes, causing crimson plasma to seep through my sclera and exit through my tear ducts. The world was spinning around me. A final chuck into the toilet caused something in my brain to just stop. One vessel in my motor cortex couldn't take the strain anymore and popped, spewing a tablespoon of blood into my dura mater. I thought my head cracked open. It certainly felt like it did. I fell to the floor, eyes wide and paralyzed. While staring at the wall, I noticed my vision blurring and all sound around me beginning to muffle. I knew right then the calm of death was upon me once more. 60 seconds I lay dying, blood exploring, killing, prying, seeking out the shallow spaces, oozing through the grooves. My soul crashed back into the ever-present darkness, that freezing, soundless void of death as my eyes closed for the last time. Again. Light then vanished rapidly. Darkness covered everything. Bludgeoned by a blanket black, I died convulsing on my back. An aura of ice penetrated my bones. I couldn't move. I was frozen solid and adrift in death's chilly embrace. Familiarity filled me once again. I awoke on the floor a moment later to the sound of my front door's locks unlocking. "Hey, Adam, I saw your car. You still here?" Gary. Already? I thought. How long have I been on the ground? "Yeah," I called out to him. "I'm in the bathroom." I hopped to my feet and flushed the toilet without looking at it. I felt Brand new again. Still? He laughed. Dude, how big was your turd? No, man, I'm about to take another shower. Unnecessary lie. He needn't know the truth. Just had to shit again. You're baking, man. He didn't respond. As I continued cleaning the bathroom, a passing thought penetrated my brain. Is this gonna happen every time I die? Immediately, I paused myself. Every time? I whispered. The question made me question the question itself. One of those again. Maybe I was starting to accept my new reality. Maybe I was going crazy. Maybe I was already crazy. What if I went to hell? What if this is hell? What if... I stopped myself. I was done questioning everything. Stress was taking my nerves on way too high a hike, and I had more important things to worry about. I finished up the bathroom again. I took a shower again. I finished packing for my trip with Evelyn again. My life was starting to feel a little repetitive. Either way, shortly after my shower, I left my apartment with a suitcase, a special little box, and high hopes waxing toward a week of wonder. Alright, that was chapter 3. If you liked it, you can like it, and comment, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, you can still like it, and comment, and subscribe. There's literally nothing stopping you.